There is a single mathematical technique so simple that a 12-year-old can learn it in one afternoon. Once learned, it allows you to calculate in your head, without a calculator, without a spreadsheet, without a financial advisor, exactly how much any loan, any credit card, any mortgage, any car payment, any financing plan will truly cost you over its full term. The real number. The number that no lender prints in large font on the first page of any agreement. The number that turns a $28,000 car into a $41,600 car. The number that turns a $250,000 home into a $537,000 home. The number that turns a $4,200 furniture set financed at 0% for the first 12 months into a $7,400 obligation when you miss month 13 by a single day, and the retroactive 26.99% interest clause buried in paragraph 9 of the financing agreement activates on the entire original balance as if the promotional period never existed. Not a budgeting app that tracks your spending after the money is already gone and sells your financial behavior data to the same credit card companies whose offers fill your mailbox every week. Not a $200 per hour financial advisor who earns a commission on the products he recommends and whose incentive structure is legally designed to benefit his brokerage before it benefits your household. Not a financial literacy elective offered to 3% of American high school students as an optional senior year course taught from a textbook sponsored by Visa's Corporate Education Foundation, a textbook that teaches you how to use credit responsibly, but never once teaches you to calculate whether you should use it at all. Not a Dave Ramsey book that tells you debt is bad in 300 pages without ever showing you the 15-second mental calculation that proves exactly how bad, down to the dollar, before you sign anything. This technique was standard curriculum in American public schools from the 1890s through the 1960s. Every student who completed 8th grade arithmetic could perform it. It was printed in the primary mathematics textbook used by more school districts than any other in the first half of the 20th century. It required no technology, no specialized knowledge, and no advanced mathematical training beyond basic multiplication and division. It was called the Rule of 78 in its most practical application, and it worked alongside a mental shortcut known as the Rule of 72 that allowed any person, any age, any education level to calculate compound interest, loan cost, and debt doubling time in their head faster than a banker could pull up the same figure on an amortization schedule. Then it disappeared. Not gradually, not through natural curriculum evolution. It was specifically and deliberately removed from standard mathematics education during the same two-decade period in which the American consumer credit industry grew from a $56 billion market to a $900 billion market. That is not a coincidence. That is a business strategy executed at the curriculum level, and the exposed population left behind by its removal has paid for that strategy with trillions in interest charges that they could not calculate, could not visualize, and could not evaluate at the moment of signing because the one tool that would have allowed them to do so had been taken out of their education 20 years before they walked into a bank. The history of this technique begins with a mathematics teacher named Edward Brooks. In 1877, Brooks published the Normal Elementary Algebra, followed by a series of arithmetic textbooks that became the most widely adopted mathematics curriculum in the United States for over 50 years. Brooks believed that mathematics education should serve practical life. His textbooks dedicated entire chapters to what he called commercial arithmetic, the mathematics of buying, selling, lending, borrowing, and calculating the true cost of any financial transaction involving time and interest. In Brooks's curriculum, a 13-year-old student learned to compute simple interest by hand. By age 14, that student could calculate compound interest across multiple periods using a structured longhand method that revealed exactly how interest accumulated on top of interest, payment period by payment period, in a visual format that made the exponential growth of debt impossible to ignore. By the time that student left school, they possessed a mental framework that allowed them to hear a loan offer, any loan offer, and immediately compute its total cost with sufficient accuracy to make an informed decision before signing. The critical mental shortcut embedded in this curriculum was the Rule of 72. The rule is mathematically simple and devastatingly powerful. To determine how many years it takes for a sum of money to double at a given interest rate, divide 72 by the interest rate. A credit card charging 24% annual interest doubles your unpaid balance every 3 years. 72 divided by 24 equals 3. A car loan at 8% interest means every dollar you financed becomes $2 in 9 years. 72 divided by 8 equals 9. A student loan at 6% doubles your original borrowed amount in 12 years. 72 divided by 6 equals 12. A mortgage at 7.2% doubles the borrowed principal over 10 years. 72 divided by 7.2 equals 10. This calculation takes less than 5 seconds to perform mentally. No phone, no calculator, no app. 5 seconds and with remarkable accuracy, the true multiplication factor of any debt you are considering. A car dealer offers you $32,000 at 9% over 6 years. 72 divided by 9 is 8 years to double. 6 years is 75% of the way to doubling. You are paying roughly $56,000 for that vehicle before you even factor in insurance, fuel, and depreciation. A furniture store offers $5,000 at 22% after the promotional period expires. 72 divided by 22 is 3.27 years. In 40 months, that couch and dining set have cost you $10,000. You can do this math while standing in the showroom, while sitting in the finance office, while holding the pen they just handed you. And that is precisely why it was removed from the only place that every American passes through before entering the consumer economy. The removal of practical financial mathematics from American public school curricula did not happen by accident. It happened in stages across the 1960s and 1970s, driven by three converging forces that shared a common interest in producing a population that consumed credit without the ability to calculate its true cost. The first force was the textbook publishing industry itself. In 1958, the National Defense Education Act poured federal money into mathematics and science education reform in response to the Soviet launch of Sputnik. The resulting curriculum overhaul, known as New Math, replaced practical arithmetic and commercial mathematics with abstract set theory, number bases, and theoretical concepts designed to prepare students for engineering and scientific careers. Publishers who secured contracts under the new federal funding guidelines produced textbooks aligned with abstract mathematical standards that eliminated commercial arithmetic entirely. The chapters on interest calculation, loan amortization, and practical financial reasoning that had occupied 15 to 20% of standard arithmetic textbooks for 70 years were replaced with Venn diagrams, base 8 number systems, and symbolic logic exercises that no student would ever apply to a single financial decision in their adult life. The second force was the banking and consumer credit industry. Between 1950 and 1975, consumer credit outstanding in the United States grew from $21.5 billion to over $200 billion. The introduction of the Universal Credit Card, beginning with Diners Club in 1950 and expanding through Bank Americard, which became Visa, and MasterCharge, which became MasterCard, created an entirely new revenue model dependent on revolving debt. The profitability of revolving credit is directly tied to the borrower's inability to accurately perceive the cumulative cost of carried balances. A consumer who can calculate in their head that a $3,000 credit card balance at 22% interest, making minimum payments, will cost over $7,800 and take 15 years to pay off is a consumer who pays the balance immediately or never takes on that debt. That consumer is worthless to the credit industry. The ideal credit customer carries a balance perpetually, makes minimum payments consistently, and never performs the calculation that would reveal the total cost of that behavior. Financial mathematical illiteracy is not a side effect of modern education. It is a precondition for the modern consumer credit economy to function at its current scale. The third force was the calculator industry. Texas Instruments introduced the first portable electronic calculator in 1967. By the mid-1970s, calculators were being marketed directly to school districts as essential educational tools, and curriculum standards were being rewritten to accommodate their use. The argument was efficiency. Why teach students to compute compound interest by hand when a calculator can do it in seconds? The flaw in that argument is obvious to anyone paying attention. A calculator only helps you if you know which calculation to perform. Removing the conceptual teaching of interest mathematics did not just eliminate manual computation. It eliminated the understanding of what to compute, when to compute it, and why the result matters. A student who was never taught the rule of 72 does not reach for a calculator to divide 72 by an interest rate. They do not think in those terms. They have no framework for evaluating debt cost because the framework itself was removed from their education along with the manual method. The calculator replaced the pencil, but no one replaced the knowledge. The financial consequences of this removal are staggering in scale and measurable in data. Total U.S. household debt reached $17.94 trillion in the fourth quarter of 2024. Credit card debt alone stood at $1.21 trillion. The average American household carrying a credit card balance owes $10,479 at an average interest rate of 22.76%. At that rate, making minimum payments, the average household will pay over $24,000 in interest alone on that balance over the repayment period, more than double the principal. Money transferred directly from working households to financial institutions in exchange for the privilege of having already spent money they did not have on purchases they could not evaluate because they were never taught the 5-second calculation that would have changed the decision at the point of sale. At Forbidden Arena, this is what we do. We recover the practical knowledge that institutional and commercial forces removed from public access because an informed population is a less profitable population. We have collected complete guides on self-reliance skills, mechanical repair techniques, emergency preparedness protocols, and practical methods that were documented, proven effective, and then quietly extracted from the channels through which ordinary people receive information. No subscriptions, no recurring charges, no content stretched thin to justify a price tag. Direct information, immediately actionable. The link is in the description below this video. But do not leave, because what I am about to teach you in the next 3 minutes is worth more than any financial literacy course you could pay for, and it will change every financial decision you make for the rest of your life. Here is the complete method. Carry these 3 mental tools, and you will never again sign a financial agreement without knowing its true cost. Tool 1. The rule of 72. You already understand this. Divide 72 by the annual interest rate of any debt. The result is the number of years required for the owed amount to double. Credit card at 24% doubles in 3 years. Auto loan at 8% doubles in 9 years. Mortgage at 6% doubles in 12 years. Personal loan at 15% doubles in 4.8 years. Student loan at 5% doubles in 14.4 years. This gives you the doubling time. From doubling time, you can estimate total cost for any loan term by simple proportion. A loan term equal to the doubling time means you pay approximately twice the original amount. A loan term equal to half the doubling time means you pay approximately 1.5 times the original amount. These are approximations, not exact amortization figures, but they are accurate within 5 to 10% of the precise calculated total, and they are available to you instantly in your head while the person across the desk is still printing paperwork. Tool 2. The minimum payment trap calculation. For any revolving credit balance, multiply the balance by 2.5. At interest rates between 18% and 26%, which covers virtually every consumer credit card on the market, the total amount paid over the life of the balance when making minimum payments is approximately 2.5 times the original balance. A $5,000 balance will cost you approximately $12,500 by the time it is paid off through minimum payments. An $8,000 balance becomes $20,000. A $15,000 balance becomes $37,500. This multiplier is not a guess. It is derived from the standard minimum payment formula used by major credit card issuers, typically 1 to 2% of the balance plus interest, applied iteratively across the resulting repayment timeline. The actual multiplier varies between 2.2 and 2.8 depending on the specific interest rate and minimum payment percentage. Using 2.5 as a mental default gives you a practical estimate that falls within the accurate range for the vast majority of consumer credit products. Tool 3. The per hour cost conversion. Take the total interest cost of any purchase, not the sticker price, the total interest you will pay over the financing term, and divide it by your effective hourly wage. Your effective hourly wage is your take-home pay after taxes divided by total hours worked including commute time. For the average American worker, this figure is between $16 and $22 per hour. When a furniture store offers you a $3,000 living room set financed at 21% over 3 years, the total interest cost is approximately $150. At an effective hourly wage of $18, that interest represents 58 hours of your labor, nearly a week and a half of full-time work performed solely to pay the cost of borrowing, not the furniture itself, just the privilege of not paying cash. When you convert interest charges into labor hours, the abstraction of percentage rates and monthly payments collapses into something visceral and undeniable. You are trading days of your life for the financial industry's revenue. The calculation takes 10 seconds. The clarity it provides lasts forever. These 3 tools, the doubling rule, the minimum payment multiplier, and the labor hour conversion, were the practical core of commercial arithmetic education for 7 decades. They were not advanced mathematics. They were not elective content. They were standard skills expected of every student before entering adult economic life. A 14-year-old in 1935 could perform all 3 calculations without writing anything down. A 35-year-old in 2025 with a college degree has almost certainly never encountered any of them in a classroom setting. The banking industry did not lobby to remove these calculations from textbooks because they were outdated. They removed them because a customer who can multiply their credit card balance by 2.5 in their head while standing at a checkout counter is a customer who puts the card back in their wallet. A borrower who divides 72 by the interest rate on a car loan while sitting in a dealership finance office is a borrower who negotiates the rate down or walks away from the deal. A mortgage applicant who converts 30 years of interest payments into labor hours before signing closing documents is an applicant who buys a smaller house, makes a larger down payment, or chooses a 15-year term that cuts total interest by more than half. Every one of those decisions reduces revenue for the financial institutions that depend on mathematical ignorance as a core business condition. The American consumer credit system does not function at its current scale with a financially literate population. It requires borrowers who feel the vague discomfort of debt without possessing the specific knowledge to quantify it at the moment when quantification would change their behavior. That is not a conspiracy theory. It is an economic structure that generates 1.21 trillion in revolving credit card debt from a population that was systematically stripped of the one skill that would have prevented the majority of that debt from being created. Your grandparents did not carry credit card debt because they did not have credit cards, but they also understood what a dollar cost in labor, what interest did to a balance over time, and what the true price of borrowing was before they agreed to borrow. They learned this in school, in a math class, from a textbook that treated financial competence as a basic life skill rather than a specialized elective available to a fraction of students in a fraction of school districts. That textbook was replaced. That knowledge was removed. And the industry that benefited most from its removal has spent 60 years making sure it was never reintroduced. You now possess what was taken, 3 mental tools, 5 seconds each. No app required, no advisor needed, no spreadsheet, no technology. Just the ability to hear a number, perform a division or a multiplication, and know immediately whether the deal in front of you is building your life or draining it. You own this now, permanently. No one can remove it from your curriculum because your curriculum is no longer controlled by the institutions that profited from your ignorance. Subscribe to Forbidden Arena right now and turn on notifications because the next video contains a method that was pulled from an even more fundamental area of public education, and the industry behind that removal is larger than banking, larger than credit, and more deeply embedded in your daily life than anything we have covered yet. Hit the like button because every like pushes this past the sponsored financial product ads and credit card affiliate content that platforms prioritize over the information that actually saves you money. Drop a comment below telling me whether you were ever taught any form of interest calculation in school, at any grade level, in any class, because every comment proves to the algorithm that millions of people were sent into an economy built on debt without the 5-second skill that would have changed everything. The next arena opens soon, and what is buried inside it explains why you were never taught to build the one thing every household needed and every industry wanted to sell you.